All U.S. presidents strongly support Israel, which is known as an unsinkable aircraft carrier for the United States in one of the most strategic regions on Earth. However, Donald Trump has taken it to a whole new level. When Trump was campaigning for president in 2024, he told the Israeli-American Council, quote, "I was the best friend Israel ever had."
I was there 4 years, gave them billions and billions of dollars. I was the best friend Israel ever had.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agrees. In a press conference at the White House, Netanyahu called Trump the greatest friend Israel has ever had.
You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
Since he returned to the White House for a second term as U.S. president, Trump has been as pro-Israel as he could possibly be, and as anti-Palestinian as he could possibly be. In fact, in a meeting at the White House with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Trump announced that he wants to expel all Palestinians from Gaza, and he plans to take over the Palestinian territory, saying the U.S. will own Gaza.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it.
What Trump is proposing is blatant ethnic cleansing and colonialism, expelling millions of indigenous Palestinians from their homeland, allowing Israel to colonize it, and then building luxury real estate. Obviously, this goes completely against international law. It is totally illegal. But there's another element of this, because all U.S. presidents have supported Israel's illegal colonization of Palestinian territories, which goes back decades. This is not new. But Trump has been explicit, very blatant, about his intention to colonize Palestinian territory, and his family can profit from the expansion of Israeli settlements and the construction of luxury real estate in Gaza. Of course, Trump became a billionaire through real estate development, and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who's married to Trump's daughter, Ivanka, is also a very rich real estate developer. And it's not a coincidence that Jared Kushner has invested very significantly in firms in Israel that profit from the expansion of Israeli settlements. And Trump and Kushner have both publicly proposed ethnically cleansing Palestinians, expelling them from Gaza, clearing out all of the rubble, because Israel, with U.S. support, has basically destroyed almost all of the buildings there. And then Trump and Kushner hope to profit from building luxury real estate. Trump proposed this in a press conference with Netanyahu on the 4th of February, in which he announced that the U.S. would take over Gaza. And then he says the U.S. will clear out all of the destroyed buildings and the U.S. will rebuild. And of course, what he didn't mention is that he and his family will profit from that.
Level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
That was not the first time that Trump floated the possibility of building in Gaza. In fact, on the day of his inauguration, the 20th of January, the day he returned to the White House, Trump hinted at his plans to build luxury real estate in Gaza, noting it had a, quote, phenomenal location on the sea.
You know, Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location. On the sea, best weather. You know, everything's good. It's like some beautiful things could be done with it, but it's very interesting. But some fantastic things could be done with Gaza.
This idea was also proposed a year before, in February 2024, by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who, like Trump, is a rich real estate developer. In this interview at Harvard, Kushner salivated over Gaza's waterfront property, which he noted could be very valuable.
In Gaza's waterfront property, it could be very valuable to if people would focus on kind of building up, livelihoods.
Kushner then said that Israel should move out Palestinians, expel them, and clean it up, as he put it.
But I think from Israel's perspective, I would do my best to move the people out and then clean it up.
Now, when Trump's son-in-law says clean it up, that's a call for blatant ethnic cleansing. That's where the term ethnic cleansing comes from. This is blatant 19th century style colonialism. This is like what the United States did to Native Americans, killing them, forcing them off their land, ethnically cleansing them, colonizing their land, and then becoming rich because they have a bunch of stolen land. That's how the United States was founded as a country. And Canada and Australia and Israel. And Israel continues to be in the process of ethnic cleansing, continuing the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians that began with the formation of Israel in 1948 in what was known as the Nakba, in which the majority of indigenous Palestinians were expelled, kicked off their land. And what's incredible is how blatant the corruption and conflicts of interest are, because Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, will profit from ethnic cleansing of Palestinians in Israel. In fact, Bloomberg reported a few days before Trump's inauguration that Kushner's investment company, Affinity Partners, had doubled its investment in an Israeli company called Phoenix Financial, which invests in illegal Israeli settlements in occupied Palestinian territory, which means that Trump's son-in-law is going to profit from Israel's expansion of settlements and colonization of Palestinian territory. And when I say the corruption is blatant, I am not in any way exaggerating. It's all out there in the open. During Trump's first term, Jared Kushner was a senior advisor to Trump overseeing his Middle East policy, especially regarding Israel. And just a few months after the Trump administration left office, a few months later, Jared Kushner created an investment company called Affinity Partners. And what happened? The Saudi monarchy announced that its sovereign wealth fund, this is the money of the Saudi monarchy, would invest $2 billion in Jared Kushner's investment company, Affinity Partners. So where is this money coming from? Saudi Arabia has a massive current account surplus. It has a lot of oil. It exports its oil. It gets paid dollars, so it has all these excess dollars. So the Saudi monarchy has a sovereign wealth fund, and they invest those dollars in U.S. assets and assets around the world. So they gave Jared Kushner $2 billion in order to invest where? Not only in the United States, but also in Israel. The Saudi monarchy that has always abandoned the Palestinian people, that has never done anything to support the Palestinian people, and has always secretly, not so secretly, been supporting Israeli colonialism. The Saudi monarchy has been using Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, to invest billions of dollars in Israel. So not only will Trump and his family profit from the expansion of Israeli settlements and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, the Saudi monarchy will also profit from the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and the colonization of Palestinian territory by the United States and Israel. And in fact, Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu has proposed that after the U.S. ethnically cleanses Palestinians from Gaza, they should be sent to Saudi Arabia. And Netanyahu said that Saudi Arabia should use some of its land to create a Palestinian state. Obviously, Saudi Arabia is not going to approve this because it would lead to the overthrow of the Saudi monarchy. The Saudi people would rise up because in reality, the people of West Asia, of the Middle East, the vast majority of people in every country support the Palestinians. It's their leaders who are largely puppets of the West historically. I mean, the U.S. helped to create the Saudi regime as a regime itself. And the regimes have been extremely beholden to the United States. And of course, the U.S. has pressured them to normalize relations with Israel. And of course, it's in their economic interest because many of them are corrupt and they're billionaires. And these are, again, monarchies. And these monarchies have invested a lot in Israel and profited from Israel's colonial policies. But again, if they openly allowed Israel to send Palestinians, to ethnically cleanse them and send them to Saudi Arabia or Jordan, or these monarchies backed by the West, the people of these countries would rise up and overthrow the monarchies because they would be seen as such a blatant act of treachery and betrayal against the Palestinian people. Now, in his press conference with Netanyahu in the White House on the 4th of February, Trump was asked about these plans to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. And a journalist said, what if countries like Jordan and Egypt refuse to accept the Palestinians from Gaza whom you're trying to ethnically cleanse? And Trump said, they will accept it because I'm going to force them to. And what he didn't mention, but what's kind of unspoken, is that Trump is going to threaten tariffs and sanctions on these countries and say, if you do not facilitate the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians and help us take over and colonize Gaza, we will destroy your economy.
If we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could be Jordan, it could be Egypt, it could be other countries.
If not Jordan, Egypt, what other countries you think might accept Palestinians from Gaza?
Well, I think Jordan and Egypt will. I know they've spoken about it with you, and they say they're not going to accept. I say they will.
And then another journalist asked how many Palestinians Trump plans to try to send to another country to expel from Gaza. And he said all of them. So again, this is textbook ethnic cleansing. This is the definition of ethnic cleansing.
Yeah,
How
I'd like to
many
see that.
people are you thinking about?
All of them. I mean, we're talking
All of
about
them.
probably 1,000,007 people, 1,000,007, maybe 1,000,008. But I think all of them. I think they'll be resettled in areas where they can live a beautiful life and not be worried about dying every day.
By the way, I don't know if you caught that there, but Trump claimed that there are 1.7 or 1.8 million Palestinians in Gaza. Now, Trump, as the U.S. president, receives regular intelligence briefings. The fact that he said that number means it's likely that someone gave him that number from the U.S. intelligence agencies. So apparently the U.S. government estimates that there are 1.7 or 1.8 million Palestinians in Gaza. However, recent estimates were 2.1 or 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza as of 2023. So is he suggesting indirectly that 300,000 Palestinians were killed by Israel in the past year and a half since October 2023? Of course, we can only read between the lines here, but this could be an indirect acknowledgement that Israel has killed hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. I should point out that leading scientific experts published a peer-reviewed article in the leading medical journal, The Lancet, in 2024, trying to calculate the number of Palestinians who would be killed in this U.S.-Israeli assault on Gaza. These experts estimated that 186,000 Palestinians would die because of the U.S.-Israeli war on Gaza, which represented about 8% of the Palestinian population of Gaza being exterminated by the U.S. and Israel. And Trump himself indirectly acknowledged how catastrophic the U.S.-Israeli attack on Gaza has been. He called Gaza hell.
I don't think people should be going back to Gaza. I think that Gaza has been very unlucky for them. They've lived like hell. They lived like you're living in hell. Gaza is not a place for people to be living. I think that Gaza maybe is a demolition site right now. If you look at Gaza, there's hardly a building standing, and the ones that are going to collapse. You can't live in Gaza right now, and I think we need another location.
Now, what Trump didn't mention is that the reason that Gaza is hell and looks like a demolition site is because the U.S. supported Israel in destroying and damaging the vast majority of the buildings in Gaza. Israel was using U.S. missiles, U.S. bombs, U.S. ammunition, U.S. shells. It was the Biden administration that staunchly supported Israel. This is bipartisan. And now Trump has come in and he's also staunchly supporting Israel. There's no difference between Biden and Trump. Well, there is a difference, which is that Trump is more blatant and explicit in what they're doing. When Biden was president, he had privately pressured Egypt to take Palestinians from Gaza, to ethnically cleanse Gaza. But Biden tried to keep that low. He tried to keep it, quiet. Whereas Trump is proud of it. He's boasting that, yes, I want to help Israel ethnically cleanse Gaza, and I want the U.S. to colonize Gaza and build luxury real estate. Trump is a proud colonialist. The Democrats are quiet colonialists. They talk about human rights while they carry out colonialism, whereas Trump is a proud colonialist. He wants to colonize Gaza. He wants to colonize Greenland. He wants to colonize the Panama Canal. He even says he wants to colonize Canada.
And the only reason they want to go back, and I believe this strongly, is because they have no alternative. What's the alternative? Go where? There's no other alternative. If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a beautiful alternative that's safe.
And for his talking point, Trump claims that supposedly Palestinians don't want to return to Gaza, that they have no alternative, and that's the only reason that they're going back to Gaza. But no, Gaza is their home. Palestinians are indigenous to Palestine. The reason they want to return to their homes, even though their homes have been destroyed, is because that's where they're from. That's where they were born and raised. That's where they have lived for generations. Unlike Israel, which was created in 1948 by European settler colonialists. They are not indigenous to the region. Netanyahu is a good example. Netanyahu is an American. He had U.S. citizenship twice because he was raised in the United States and educated in the United States. He went to high school and college and got his first jobs in the United States. And then he gave up his citizenship to work for the Israeli government. And then he got U.S. citizenship again. And then he gave up his citizenship again and he became prime minister. So Netanyahu is not indigenous to West Asia. He's an American. Palestinians are indigenous. And yet Trump says, oh, well, the only reason they want to live there is because they have no alternative. So we can just send them to another country where they're not from, their family's not from. It's like saying French people, oh, they can all just move to Bulgaria. We don't care. They have nothing to do with Bulgaria. They've never been there. They should all just move to Bulgaria because, they're all European. And then, we can take over French real estate and get really rich. This is exactly what the U.S. is trying to do to Palestine. All of this is why Netanyahu referred to Trump in their press conference at the White House as the greatest friend Israel has ever had.
I've said this before. I'll say it again. You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
Netanyahu then heaped praise on Trump, recalling how during his first term, Trump moved the U.S. embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And according to international law, East Jerusalem is occupied territory. This belongs to the Palestinian people, but Israel has been illegally occupying it. Trump ignored international law. He moved the U.S. embassy there. And Trump also recognized Israel's illegal colonial annexation of Syrian territory in the Golan Heights, which violates international law. And Trump also withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, which was also written into international law and backed by a UN Security Council resolution. And so Trump blatantly violated international law, and this is why Netanyahu was so happy.
In your first term, you recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital. You moved the American embassy there. You recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights. You withdrew from the disastrous Iran nuclear deal.
Since returning to the White House, Trump also signed an executive order calling to deport foreign students in the U.S. who protest against Israel's crimes against the Palestinian people, which is obviously a flagrant violation of the freedom of speech and freedom of expression, which is so ironic and so hypocritical because Trump and Elon Musk, the world's richest man who is playing a key role in the Trump administration, both of them claim that they're defending free speech. Trump also signed another executive order claiming to defend free speech. But when it comes to Israel, there's no free speech. If you criticize Israeli colonialism and support Palestinian human rights, the U.S. government will deport you. So this is the so-called solution that the U.S. and Israel have to everything. Simply deport people you don't like, ethnically cleanse them. Trump wants to deport immigrants. He wants to deport people who protest against Israel. And Israel wants to deport and ethnically cleanse, expel Palestinians from their indigenous territory. And this has been admitted openly now by Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz. And he said that he has instructed the IDF to prepare a plan to expel Gazans. Now, of course, the Israeli regime claims this is supposedly voluntary, but it's not voluntary when the other option is being killed by Israel. If your option is so-called voluntary migration or death, then you don't really have an option. They're just going to kill you. It's not a real option. And he claimed insanely, no one actually believes this. If you know anything about Gaza, Israel's defense minister claimed that the people of Gaza should have a right to freedom of movement and migration. This is completely false. Israel has imposed an illegal blockade on Gaza since 2007 for nearly 20 years. Israel controls the airspace, the water, the land crossings, everything in Gaza. And this was before the October 2023 attacks. This goes back, again, nearly 20 years. Israel controls Gaza. It is illegally occupied territory according to international law, which is why even biased Western human rights organizations that are very close to the U.S. government, like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, even they have admitted that Gaza is an open-air prison. And now the so-called solution that the U.S. and Israel have is to simply ethnically cleanse Palestinians, expel them all. And it's not a coincidence that in the process, the Trump family hopes to make a lot of money on this. Now, as I said earlier, I'm not trying to claim that Trump is unique when it comes to Israel. Support for Israel's crimes against the Palestinian people has been totally bipartisan in the United States. Biden, the Democrat, bears a lot of responsibility for bringing us to this situation and giving Israel billions of dollars of weapons to destroy Gaza and kill, who knows, probably hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in Gaza. And of course, it's not just Biden. This goes back as well to Obama and Bush and Clinton and Reagan. The list goes on and on. This is bipartisan. But Trump is the U.S. president, and he is even more blatant in his support for openly colonialist policies. And unlike his predecessors, who talked about human rights and democracy and international law, Trump has completely disposed of any pretense. He has taken off the mask and shown the true face of the U.S. empire, and he's going back to 19th century style colonialism. He wants to expand the U.S. empire and take over many other foreign territories, including Gaza and Greenland and the Panama Canal and Canada, and who knows which country will be the next target of the U.S. empire and Donald Trump's modern-day colonialism. But we here at Geopolitical Economy Report will be constantly reporting on and analyzing the crimes of the U.S. empire. If you like the work that we do, please like and subscribe. Please share this. I am Ben Norton, the editor-in-chief of Geopolitical Economy Report. I want to thank everyone for joining me today. I will see you all next time.